With day one of free agency behind us, we have turned the page to day two, and the San Francisco 49ers woke up this morning to find out the news that Clelin Ferrell has signed with the Washington Commanders, and he will go link up with Adam Peters in Washington. So, this was a guy that I think if you asked most 49er fans, they would have wanted back, including myself. I think Cleveland was one of the more underrated players of the entire season for the San Francisco 49ers in regards to what he did from an edge perspective of maintaining gap integrity and playing to his keys in the run game. I think we noticed that when he went out, it was like the floodgates opened up on that side in which he played. Cleveland, again, this was my scouting report initially when we signed him. This was a guy that I had followed throughout his career at Clemson, was a big fan of him, but also understanding that he never really had that elite pass rush trait. He was a quality pass rusher, not an elite pass rusher. But when it came to being a grade A run defender, that's where he excelled. And so the San Francisco 49ers are now going to lose that element. And again, he came in for a 1 year deal, came in for a 1 year prove it. Obviously got hurt there at the end, and now he goes to Washington. Well, he'll likely do the same thing. So I would say it's actually a loss for the 49ers. I would assume that they were going to try to bring Clelin Ferrell back, considering that he presents, somewhat of a bargain. But also, too, I guess when you look at what they paid Yetur Gross-Matos and they paid Leonard Floyd, maybe he felt like it was time for a change and to go elsewhere. So I think when you're looking at Yetur, I think that's a guy who is going to have to fill that role left by Cleveland. And I think that's where he excels too. He reminds me of like a little bit of a longer version of Cleveland, a little bit younger, I believe. And so I think with Yetur, that's one role that we can look at him for. Also, on top of that, Yetur, I think, can excel as a pass rusher over the guard. I don't think he will find a ton of success rushing off the edge, although he is capable. He's kind of like Cleveland. He can do it. He has the ability to do it. He just doesn't have those elite pass rushing traits. But it's a different story when you kick him inside and you play him over the guard. So I'm thinking Yetur is like the Arden Key, Charles Omenihu kind of 2.0 type of guy for the San Francisco 49ers. And then, of course, you've got Leonard Floyd, who's just going to pin his ears back and get after the passer. So I think they're instead of getting a complete edge rusher and just one player, they're kind of piecemealing it together. And this is something that we've seen with Chris Kosurik defensive lines is he uses a heavy rotation, and the more the merrier, effectively, that you can keep fresh and just throw waves based on situations. And he's found success doing so. So obviously, I think it's a bummer that Cleveland isn't going to be a San Francisco 49er. I thought he fit in really well. I thought he was a great addition of this offseason. He was a guy that I picked as being one of the most underrated free agent signings, one of the most underrated players that was going to have a quality year. And I think he did just that. Again, Cleveland isn't going to provide those splash numbers, but he just does the dirty work really well. The things that you need to have done on that defensive line. So now it's can we see that from Gross Matos, or are we going to see the San Francisco 49ers continue to try to find these types of guys in the draft? It does feel like when it comes to edge, the 49ers might be done in free agency. And then, like I said, they can turn to the draft, start trying to find some gems that they can plug and play and rotate in. And of course, don't forget, the 49ers still have Drake Jackson, who had, basically what appears to be season ending knee surgery. that put him on the shelf after the 49ers had traded for Randy Gregory and Chase Young. But Drake Jackson will be coming back. And I am one to say I'm not ready to give up on Drake Jackson. I will tell you in the same breath that I would say last year was an underwhelming year for him, but I'm also not ready to give up on him just yet. He's a very young player. I think he still has time to mature and grow. And if he can continue to do that, and really start honing in on his technical ability, I think Drake Jackson could be a quality rotational player. Now, are we ever going to be talking about Drake Jackson as a prototypical elite guy? I don't know at this current stage, um, but he still has promise. So I'm not giving up on him. And of course, you have now second year player Robert Beal, who does possess some ability to rush the passer off the edge. We still kind of TBD on him. We haven't really seen him in a ton of action with the San Francisco 49ers. But again, the whole key to this offense, or to this defense, I should say, has been to try to find a pass rusher on the opposite side of Nick Bosa. That has been the 49ers' Achilles heel on the defensive side, in my opinion, from last year. And again, I do believe the 49ers agreed with my assessment, which is why they traded for two pass rushing defensive ends um, at the deadline. But they go out and they fill that need. Leonard Floyd and again, Yetur, I think, could also be a hybrid Eric Armstead replacement. So we're going to see. We're going to see how this ultimately comes together. Clearly, there are still holes on the defensive line that need to be fixed, including interior defensive tackles. So I would assume that is going to be the next wave. Um, there is a prospect I got my eye on. I think I'm going to make a whole separate video on him, and I will post that shortly. So keep an eye out for that, of who I think the 49ers need to target on the interior defensive line here in free agency, now that it does appear that Eric Armstead, hasn't officially been released, but appears to be on the outs for sure with the San Francisco 49ers. Likely, I would assume, a post June 1st cut. So we'll see. We will see, but I think this one was underrated loss. I'm curious to know how you guys feel about this. So let me know in the comments. Do you kind of agree with my assessment that this was an underrated loss? He really filled in well. The hope was that he was going to come back, but maybe with the moves that the 49ers made yesterday, that was kind of the indication that it was time to move on. I don't know. You guys let me know in the comments below. And as always, make sure to like and subscribe for more updates.